Ben McKee, Patrick Brown with GoVols 24/7 here on campus following day 3 of Tennessee training camp. Tennessee back in action after a day off on Friday, was on the practice field this morning, was even able to go outside for the majority of practice thanks to the weather somewhat clearing up for a little while. Pat, your biggest takeaway from the 3 periods that we were able to see at the beginning of practice?
Yeah, I'll start with the Lance Hurd update. Looks like he was able to do a little bit more coming off the off day on the knee. Javonte Spraggins, who we didn't see it Thursday, he was dealing with a personal matter. He was back out there. It looked like there was some peer-to-peer coaching going on in the offensive line group. In zone routes on air, a little hit and miss. Looked good at some stretches. Too many drops at the other parts too. So that could be just one bad round. They could have torn it up afterwards for all we know. But that's what we saw in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Too many balls on the ground for routes on air without any DBs near you, quite frankly. Spoke to essentially the whole linebacker room after practice.
Yeah.
Got to speak to William Inge. Then we got to speak to Edwin Spillman.
We've come a long way from having Juwan Mitchell and Jeremy Banks not talking to the media.
Yes, thankfully. Edwin Spillman, Jalen Smith, Arion Carter, and Caleb Perry. I think Tennessee fans, if they go and watch Arion Carter's clip that we'll have posted on our YouTube page here this afternoon, we'll be ready to run through a wall by the time he gets done talking.
Yeah, William Inge was talking up most of his linebackers, but he was the most glowing about Arion Carter, who was obviously a big recruiting win for Tennessee, all-out battle with Alabama there at the end for a really talented player out of Smyrna High School down the road. That's outside of Murfreesboro, right? Had the shoulder injury in the Kentucky game, when underwent surgery, was non-contact in the spring, but apparently he lived in this complex and just talked about how far mentally he's come and how last season he's trying to kind of play and figure out what he's doing himself. And this offseason, a lot of late nights in the film room, bringing his teammates in there. It sounds like he knows the defense inside and out, what everybody else is doing, and so he's hoping to play fast and free. And Inge talked about how he's a cheetah out there, and and that's probably one of the biggest things that Inge wants at linebacker is guys who can run and play in space. And Arion also, coming off the injury, lost some weight. He said he was at 240, I think, in camp last year, and is down to 225 now. So he should be playing faster because he knows what he's doing, and he should be playing faster because he's a little bit lighter and more explosive. So an exciting player. And Al Wilson was at practice today, and he lit up when he got asked about Al Wilson, and he talked about Gerard Mayo too, and he wears 7. So that was not by accident. So he's a player Tennessee fans should be excited about. Haven't seen a lot of him yet, but there's obviously a lot of excitement about him going into this season.
Yeah, and with Arion, he said that his teammates and coaches have been coming up to him and saying, hey, we can already see a difference in terms of being down in weight and him being able to fly around. Felt like he was too heavy, and that helped him from a strength standpoint. But in today's game, you got to be able to go sideline to sideline and cover receivers, running backs, tight ends. And that's something that William Inge talked about as well in terms of his 2 inside linebacker positions of you want guys that have multiple traits and can do different things, but at the end of the day, in today's game, offense is going to try and spread you out, and you got to be able to cover those guys and play in space.
Yeah, it's a different era of college football, and that your linebackers coach saying, I want guys who can run. That's what you normally hear for defensive backs, but in order was saying we need guys that can run and play in space, and then they can hold up in the jungle and the core and take on those big blockers and everything like that. We're going to put the Guns N' Roses, or we're going to put the Guns N' Roses over this segment of the.
We would, but you two would.
We can't pay for the song, so that would be the problem. But yeah, and in terms of those 2 spots, he kind of made it sound like they should be interchangeable, but not really. They kind of have to be, but they also want some Mike and Will guys. But there are some guys that are doing a little bit of both, and they're expected to know both because sometimes formationally they might get shifted from one to the next. But Edwin Spillman, the freshman, is somebody that they're, I think, trying to cross-train at both of those. And so maybe that's a sign that they're trying to get him ready. I think he's working at a couple different spots, and so he might be a guy that situationally gets some playing time but also plays on special teams. But that's another guy, a freshman, that they're really excited about. Yeah,
and that's where I was going next. I mean, we talked about Inge hyping up Arion Carter. He also did not shy away from hyping up Edwin Spillman. Said
as he did in the spring too. Yeah.
Yes, as he did in the spring. Said hey, this is a guy that once y'all get to watch him playing, y'all are going to know about him and be talking about him and writing about him for years to come.
Yeah, and Spillman's a guy that even in the spring he was out there. You could hear the pads popping and the helmets contact, and when he was out there, he's a bull in a china shop. I think it was Jalen Smith that said he's a headhunter.
Yes.
Spillman's a guy that's coming from Lipscomb Academy in Nashville. Showed up right before spring ball. Was at 215. Now he's at 230. Feels a lot stronger. So another exciting player in this linebacker group.
Yeah, with Jalen Smith, the redshirt freshman, he talked about just being more comfortable and hoping that helps him this year. And then with Caleb Perry, for him, he said he's just got to trust his athleticism and trust that this is his third year in the program. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. Just let his athleticism shine. And if that's the case and his athleticism does shine, then that's athleticism you don't typically see at that linebacker position.
Yeah, he's almost like a big safety.
Yeah.
And he played some safety in high school, and he went back this offseason to wearing his old high school number 8, switching from number 40. Well, of course, number 8 is also Nico's number, so Caleb Perry, I guess, is the other number 8. But he kind of said that there was a meaning to that because in high school he was just playing free and playing off instincts and natural ability, and the sort of the symbol of the moving the number was I need to go back to playing where I'm not overthinking. So if he can do that, yes, he's an athletic player, and he got a lot of first-team reps in the spring. With Carter out, we'll see if he can get in the mix there. I think Carter's probably going to be your starter next to Keenan Peely, but Perry is a guy that is going to be trying to get in the rotation. And Inge talked about wanting to play 5 or 6 guys. I doubt we'll see that, but he did play a lot of guys at Washington as they got through all 15 games last season. So they want to play some guys, and that's what that's what this camp is about, is find out who they can trust and who they're going to play.
Absolutely. Plenty of coverage from practice number 3 over here on campus today. Also keeping our eye on the recruiting trail today, so be sure you're locked into GoVols 24/7 and keeping track of all
around 3
content.
o'clock. You might want to be near a device.
A device that can pull up 24/7 Sports on YouTube. I would recommend that. Big weekend for the Vols. They'll be back in practice tomorrow morning for practice number 4. No media availability for us, but we will have practice observations, highlights, and photos as well. So make sure you're locked into GoVols 24/7 for all of your Tennessee football coverage. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.